Hi, I'm Maria Ingold. I'm at Connected Media IP, NAB Show 2018. I am joined by Chris Brown, who is the EVP of Conventions and Business Operations for said NAB show.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
How has the NAB show been for you this year?
It's been great. You know, it's always, every year's a little different. You never know exactly kind of what the buzz is going to be and how the general feel is going to be. This year it's been good. I think probably better than I might have expected. You know, there's a lot going on in this industry, a lot of change, a lot of disruption, and I think, you know, coming in there was some level of uncertainty around, you know, where are we kind of in this evolution and how are things going to be moving forward. But, you know, the one thing about the show that's great, because it brings so many people together and so many people that are passionate about this business, you know, everybody gets energized. You know, everybody gets excited kind of about the opportunities, and people tend to leave behind sort of the concern side. Still there, but they focus more here around opportunities because they're meeting and talking and seeing so many new things. It kind of gets people really kind of rejuvenated. So I think that's really what we've seen this year.
That's great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a CTO in this space, so this is my world.
You're our perfect demographic. Yeah.
I am your perfect demographic. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely thrilled to be here.
Yeah.
And for me, this is, well, I'm used to European conferences which are smaller. This show is immense.
Sure.
And one of the things I really like is having the connected media IP space, because a majority of the companies that I actually want to see are in this space, so that really saves me time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I go off and see the other individual companies that I want to see around the show.
Sure.
So what other initiatives are you putting in place to help people save time to see exactly what they want to see, given how massive the show is?
Sure, yeah, good question. This area, Connected Media IP, is truly unique. There's nothing else like it really on the show floor. So, and I know we'll talk about that, but you know, you set that aside. Outside of that, I mean, we really do our best to, number one, broadly organize the show around certain categories so that people, when they walk into a certain hall or certain area of the show floor, they're going to see companies that generally will relate to one another, and sometimes competitive companies that are literally aisle to aisle. And you know, again, there's an efficiency in that, I think, for the buyer, for the CTO, or whoever might be coming through the show. It's impossible to do it cleanly because there's so many companies that do so many different things, but we do the best we can. And then beyond that, where we can, we'll organize smaller pavilions, much smaller than what you see here in Connected Media IP, around certain trends, certain technologies that, again, focus attention. Now those might be, they might include, you know, 10 companies, they might include 20 or 30 companies, again, much smaller than Connected Media IP, but give some sense for people of companies that are doing, you know, new and interesting things. And then beyond that, we also do a couple of our own theaters on the floor. I know in Connected Media IP, those are central, and it's great having them all here because you guys can then focus very, very succinctly on the things that are important to Connected Media. We can't do it quite as succinctly, but we put a couple of them in different halls.
Great.
And we'll focus across a range of trends, technologies there, invite certain companies to come in and present, and other speakers from the industry, mostly around general trends that might relate to those categories that are in those halls. So beyond that, we try to put actual tools in people's hands. So one obviously important one is a mobile app. We, I think, got a new one this year that actually is working very, very well. Tried to make it very simple, very easy to get to the information you want. It's got everything in there, including all the information on Connected Media, IP. It's got all of our other exhibitors, all of our conference programs, and there are 600 or 700 sessions that are in there.
Wow.
So there's a lot. So you need something like that to be able to, you know, quickly search, find things, and that's all available there. So and then there's lots of other information counters, so we actually use humans to help with that as well, as much as we can.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
So there are resources around, and we try to always continue to add to that to make it a little easier, because as you said, it's a big event.
That's good.
Yep, absolutely.
So I've been in this industry a long time. I've certainly, you know, from early days, and I've certainly seen it grow.
Sure.
So I was really excited to see that the footfall in Connected Media IP had grown by 20% this year.
That's great.
And I think it's due to the great companies that we've got here.
Right.
There's 2 very good theaters. And of course, we're developing a community here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what other trends are you seeing?
Well, I think that number one, certainly congratulate the team and Connected Media IP on everything that you've done here, because it really is unique to the show, as I mentioned, and it really is that sort of combination of things that you just mentioned that really makes all that work really, really well. And connected in our world, I think connected media is becoming more and more important as we see this evolution in the industry, as we see things shifting from really hardware-based to software-based solutions. CTOs really, as I say, become very important in that mix to to IP-based technologies, and so it makes perfect sense that there would be that sort of increase in footfall here in the connected media IP area. And I think if you look out beyond the area, and particularly in this hall, you see similar trends. It is becoming less and less about hardware. It's becoming more and more about software. It's becoming a bit more of an IT event. I mean, and that's interesting. I mean, because this has not traditionally been an IT industry, and so there is a sort of migration, or at least this blending of broadcast and IT, of broadcast and broadband, and it is bringing kind of new people into the equation, new job functions into the equation, which is good, and I think that's something we have to continue to do, is to kind of evolve towards that, and really tell that story better, because we still do have people who kind of look at, can't get beyond sort of, it's NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, it's a broadcaster event, and I'm not broadcast. Well, it hasn't been a traditional broadcast show for 20 years. It's
true.
just taken time to evolve, and it's taken time for people to realize that, understand that broadcast really means something very, very different now.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
much broader.
this is truly a media and entertainment event end to end. So.
Wonderful. Well, one of the other things I am is a global public speaker, so I was absolutely thrilled to discover that the Connected Media IP, both of the locations we're speaking had completely sold out, as they said.
Right.
So I know what a big difference it makes to have an engaged, full audience to talk to.
Sure.
So that's one of my favorite things about the Connected Media IP area. What's one of yours?
I think it's that integrated approach that we've talked about. I mean, I think that's hard to do, and it's hard to do in a big event like this. We can't, or at least haven't been able to up to this point, truly deliver that kind of level of sort of curated experience for the companies who are in this space, that provides them sort of the opportunity to kind of address audiences as speakers, as thought leaders, that provides them the opportunity to capture video interviews, video content, all other things, and to actually then extend their experience well beyond just the time that they're here at the show. That's really important. I mean, obviously, companies need to be able to get maximum return for what they do. This is, we understand, I've always understood, it takes a lot of work to do this for any of the companies that come to this show. It's a big investment. So I think what you guys do is you really make sure that they get maximum return on that investment. And that to me is really, it's a pretty unique and pretty cool thing.
Wonderful. So what are your plans for NAB show going forwards?
Well, it's a constant process, and I wish I could tell you that we've got it on lock and we know exactly what things are going to be and what they're going to look like for next year, but we really don't. I mean, we need to kind of process what we've seen here this week.
Yes.
We'll get a lot of feedback, and we'll be gathering a lot of feedback over the next month or so. We do post-show surveys and we have other feedback mechanisms, so we need to gather data, and so we go into that sort of mode. And then from that, we start to kind of cull out what we think might be really the key trends that people are interested in going forward. I mean, an example of that is a couple of years ago, and we'll, some of this we will attempt to lead with, by providing people a list of certain trends, categories, and other things, and saying, which one of these might be interesting. In other cases, it's open-ended. But cybersecurity bubbled up a couple of years ago, not surprisingly. Given that there were some very public, issues, in the media space and some things, obviously it alarmed people.
Yeah.
But I think people really understood that, in the world of content and in the world of big files and moving big files and now moving things more into the cloud and those kinds of things. They're very vulnerable, and
Yeah.
and they cannot ignore that side of it. So really now for a couple of years, we've been kind of evolving and building programs and more information around those kinds of technologies and those kinds of trends. So that's the sort of process. I mean, in my mind, kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I think for next year and beyond, we've got to tell a stronger story about this evolution that's occurring and
Yes.
how the industry is shifting to very much a software-driven, data-driven, things like machine learning and AI and those types of things are going to become more and more important, going to drive really interesting, new technologies, I think.
And they apply to everything.
And they apply to everything, yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of exciting, I think. And that will change the complexion of the show to some extent as we move towards that. But as I said, we still are kind of having to more clearly communicate to some sections of the world and of this industry that it's not all about broadcasting. Sometimes we say NAB is really not all broadcasting. So that's sort of really what we're trying to communicate in the end.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll see us really trying to emphasize the new elements that are coming on, and this is where connected media IP is perfect because it really does represent this sort of leading edge and how the industry is evolving. And so it's a really important subset of what happens here.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for so many great NAB shows in the past, and we look forward to more not all broadcast shows in the future.
Yeah, great, perfect. We do as well. Great. Been
Wonderful.
a great partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.